college football. I'm your host, Grayson, and today we're going to start with the TCU Horned Frogs. They knocked off Texas 17-10 in Austin with College game day in attendance. The Horned Frogs are now a legit playoff contender, and they have been. They're undefeated. Of course they are. We all kind of are in this state of mind where you're just expecting TCU to lose, and that hasn't been the case. They just keep rattling off win after win. Even if a lot of those games have been close, they found a way to get things done. And crazy that they did in Austin. This Texas team, a lot of people have been very high on all year long, talking about, yeah, they have 3 losses, but they're still, a top 10 team according to advanced metrics and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, that's really cool, but they're a 6-4 team now. And I don't think that you can look at their best wins on their schedule and come away too impressed with the job that Steve Sarkisian has done this year for the Longhorns. And this game was really weird. I would say going into it, my expectation was this was going to be a little bit of a shootout. Both teams were going to have some success offensively against 2 defenses that have been good, but also shown some cracks at times. That was not the case. This was an absolute defensive brawl. The first half featured 3 drives, just 3, of over 24 yards, to go along with 11 drives of less than 15 yards. I mean, it was just, nobody was going anywhere. There was 3 points in the half. It was a 3-0 TCU lead at halftime. Texas had 11 tackles for loss in the first half. 11 in the first. I mean, it was like TCU was just going backwards for a majority of the first half. But then the second half, things opened up a little bit. TCU had some explosive plays. That was kind of the difference in the game. They had a few more explosive plays than Texas. But for me, this all came down to the superstars, especially offensively for both these teams, because both defenses were really good. Both defenses, their best players really showed out. But offensively, it came down to 4 players in my eyes. It was probably the 4 best offensive players on either team. TCU running back Kendre Miller had 138 yards and a touchdown, including that huge 75-yard touchdown that I really think was probably the difference in this game. It was just massive at a point where both teams really weren't moving the ball consistently. He broke a big one. On the flip side, Texas's running back Bijan Robinson had 29 yards rushing on 12 carries. 0 receptions in the passing game. He was just eliminated by this TCU defense. That was honestly the most shocking thing from this game, was the fact that Texas ran the ball 22 times for 28 yards. They just couldn't do anything against this TCU front. Next superstar, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver for TCU. He had 3 catches for 66 yards. He also had that long 31-yard touchdown that pretty much sealed this game in my eyes for TCU. So he had another very nice game. And then on the flip side, Quinn Ewers, 17 for 39 and an interception. Also 5 carries for negative 15 yards. He was honestly dreadful. And it's kind of been this way for a lot of the back half of this year. He's just been inaccurate. He can't really make the throws deep, which honestly felt like his calling card when he was at South Lake Carroll. So if you can't complete the passes deep and you're struggling to be accurate with short stuff and moving the chains for your team, it's going to be really difficult. And the fact of the matter is they couldn't run the ball and they were inaccurate, and that led them to 1 for 13 on 3rd down and 1 for 4 on 4th down. That's terrible. 2 for 17 on 3rd and 4th down. That is exactly how you lose games and exactly how, you walk out of your stadium thinking what could have been. TCU had the time of possession 37-23. Everything points to, hey, if Texas played better, they probably could have won this game by a touchdown or 2, but they didn't play well. And TCU was a big reason why they did not play well. The superstars were the absolute difference in this game for the Horned Frogs, and that's why TCU advanced with another big win. And now you're sitting here, Texas, trying to figure out, hey, how do we get to the Big 12 championship? Kansas State blew out Baylor 31-3, so now Kansas State's kind of in the squarely in the driver's seat to be the team that faces TCU in the Big 12 championship. So let's dive into it just a little bit. TCU is clinched, right? TCU's, they're in the Big 12 championship. Doesn't matter what happens in their last 2 games. They clinched this weekend. Baylor is essentially eliminated. There are a few things that could happen that would allow them to get there, but essentially they would need Kansas State to lose twice, Baylor would need to win out, and they'd need Oklahoma State to lose once. It's just not realistic. They're pretty much eliminated from contention here. Kansas State wins out, they are in. If they lose, they need Texas to lose to avoid tiebreak scenarios. They lost to Texas. So there's kind of the reasoning there. Texas needs to win out, and they need Kansas State to lose. Also, they have a lost Oklahoma State, so there could be some tiebreak issues there, even if all those teams tie with 3 losses. It'd be easier if K-State lost and Oklahoma State lost and Texas won out, then they would be in. Oklahoma State needs to win out. They need Kansas State to lose to have a chance, and if they're in 3-way tie, they'd need to win the tiebreak situation, which they have a win over Texas. So I would say as we're sitting here, it's becoming, I don't want to say obvious, but I think we're trending towards TCU versus Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. Kansas State has games at West Virginia, which is kind of looking like a tricky game. West Virginia's won some games at home. And then Kansas, that's a rivalry game. Kansas has put up a bunch of yards on people. Who knows what happens? But in my eyes, I think Kansas State is peaking at a good time. I think they're probably going to win out. TCU is going to be fine. They're going to be in the Big 12 championship. So I got TCU versus Kansas State in the title game. But again, the Big 12 has been crazy this year. So it wouldn't shock me if some other just shocking upsets happen. But I think these are probably the 2 best teams in the league. Will Howard's going to be the quarterback going forward for Kansas State. Now that we know Adrian Martinez is out for a few weeks, I think they're better with him. TCU, on the other hand, they just continue winning. So that's where we're at in the Big 12. I do think if TCU wins out, they will be in the college football playoff. If they lose one game in their next 2, so I'm not saying they can't lose the Big 12 championship game and still get in. But if they're 11-1, go to the Big 12 championship, win that game, and are 12-1, they'll have a case. They'll have a case to make the college football playoff, but that's where things get murky, right? Because you're basically going to be sitting there like, okay, if USC's 12-1, do they get in over them? If Tennessee's sitting there 11-1, which they will be, do they take Tennessee or TCU? That's tough as well. The committee says they value conference championships, but I don't know if they would in that case. So there's still a lot of question marks there if they were to lose. But if they handle business, I think TCU will definitely be in the college football playoff. They might even be the 3 seed in the college football playoff as well. So that's it for this week as far as the Big 12 goes. A fun, exciting week. The conference continues to be just awesome. So fun to watch, but we finally, I think, got a little more clarity this week as to who will be in the conference championship and who the legit contenders are in the Big 12. So thanks for listening. This has been Crystal Ball College Football.